NFC Championship game between the Detroit Lions and San Francisco 49ers is set for 6:30 p.m. kickoff Eastern Time on Sunday. The Niners are 7-point favorites in the friendly confines of Levi Stadium, while the Lions are trying to qualify for the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history. There are some CFL connections to this game. Is there any chance we'll see Detroit making it to the big dance?
I know that the San Francisco 49ers are the better team. However, I think that the BC Lions. The Detroit Lions have a team of destiny feeling about them. I am willing to take them in this game, not just against the spread. I'm going to take the money line where the real cash is available. I am a Dan Campbell believer. I have been that way since the day I heard him talking about biting kneecaps off opponents when he took the job a few years ago. And ultimately, in football, that physicality, that mentality is the great equalizer. We all know about the weapons that the San Francisco 49ers have on offense. Well, guess what? The Detroit Lions have arguably the best offensive line in football. And defensively, I think there's a lot of guys who get overlooked on that unit. Alan McNeil, who I think has been a standout at nose tackles, a run stopper for them this year, I think could be a difference maker in this game. Doesn't get a lot of headlines, but I've known about him since 2020 when he played along Canadian defensive lineman Daniel Joseph at North Carolina State. To me, the Lions money line, there's money available. This team, you mentioned it, Dunk, has never been in the Super Bowl. Why not them? Why not this year? I like it. Everyone's picking the 49ers. I'm happy to roll with the money line and the Detroit Lions.
I think it's kind of quaint, Hodge, that you've fallen for this Cinderella story, or should I say fairy tale, because there's no way that the Detroit Lions are going to get past this juggernaut San Francisco 49ers team led by the best CFL quarterback that never was, former neg lister Brock Purdy, who I thought was going to be a star north of the border. Turns out he's a star south of the border, too, an MVP candidate on a team that has multiple MVP candidates because they've got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, too. I don't care how good your defense is. Those weapons are going to cause you problems. And if you're a CFL fan, there is rooting interest here, too, because good old Eric Harris is still kicking around in the NFL, the former Hamilton Tiger Cats safety, and he is on the San Francisco 49ers practice roster. Maybe he gets elevated for this game, and hopefully he gets himself a Super Bowl ring for his troubles.
If Purdy had somehow made it to the CFL and didn't beat out Trey Lance, who was a high NFL draft pick, do you think he could have led the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to 4 straight Grey Cups?
I'm going to go ahead and say no, only because he was on the neg list with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Okay, fair enough. 4 straight Grey Cups? I don't think so. I think Brock Purdy is an average quarterback in an amazing situation. He's got arguably the best head coach in the NFL. He's got the best weapons in the NFL. He's got the best left tackle in the NFL.
Sounds like San Francisco's the better team here, Hodge, since you're listing all the things they're the best.
I didn't want to say they didn't have the better weapons on offense. What I'm saying is he has, of any starting quarterback in the NFL, the easiest job. He is not required to create on his own. His job is to not mess up a brilliant game plan being executed by high-level teammates. And I think the Detroit Lions have it in them to try to make the San Francisco 49ers a little bit more one-dimensional. I think Jared Goff is an underrated quarterback. I actually think Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. I think if you reverse the roles, I think Goff would do better in San Fran than Purdy would do in the Motor City, and that's part of the reason I'm taking the Lions. Obviously, they won their past 2 playoff games at home with that home field advantage. I think they can get it done once on the road.
If that was people didn't know, Jared Goff's quarterback coach is JT Barrett, who almost came to the CFL, signed a contract with the Edmonton football team, but got that job with the Detroit Motor City Lions. And Sean Payton paid Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, a compliment that resonated in Canada because he said they have a CFL style offense because they're so productive on first and second down that in a decent amount of possessions, they don't even get to third down. So it's really intriguing to see this team that has a bunch of playmakers. I think actually you put them up and they stack together pretty closely, these offenses, in terms of playmakers. Do the Lions have a Christian McCaffrey? No, but Jahmyr Gibbs is pretty darn close and could evolve into a very dynamic weapon for the Lions. I like the Detroit and Motor City Lions plus the points, and I think Hodge is right. There is a lot of value taking them on the money line, so it's worth a sprinkle.
And we know that Detroit is just across the river from Windsor, that Canadian connection. There's also a Canadian on the Lions coaching staff, where there's not many teams in the NFL that have a Canadian on their coaching staff. Wayne Blair, born in Toronto, a former CFLer, is their defensive quality control coach. So he has some impact on that defense you're talking about, even though they're going to be helpless against the 49ers, Hodge. The AFC Championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens is set for Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The Chiefs have Winnipeg Blue Bombers quarterback Zach Collaros on their side, as he was spotted in a booth with Taylor Swift and Jason Kelce in Buffalo, while the Ravens are buoyed by two players from Southern Ontario along their defensive line. And the Ravens win and cover the 3.5-point spread, or is Patrick Mahomes headed back to his fourth Super Bowl?
Outstanding linebacker Roquan Smith said, Mahomes is elite, but ultimately we have an elite defense as well. And I think Smith is right. This Ravens unit has been playing otherworldly defensive football. And you mentioned it, two kids from Southern Ontario. That would be Brent Urban from Mississauga and Tavius Robinson from Guelph, and the University of Guelph by way of Old Miss getting drafted into the NFL. Two guys that are used heavily on that defensive line rotation. The Ravens like to keep it fresh up front. I think that's part of the reason why this defense has been so dominant. But I just cannot, until proven otherwise, bet against Patrick Mahomes. This guy just knows how to get it done at playoff time. He doesn't care if he's playing his first career road playoff game at Highmark Stadium with Bills Mafia all in a tizzy and Taylor Swift in the building and Jason Kelce walking around shirtless, introducing young fans to Taylor Swift through the window in their nice suite that Collaros sat in there. Until Mahomes loses, I'm riding with Mahomie.
For the record, Patrick Mahomes is obviously sensational. That being said, the Baltimore Ravens had the best defense in the NFL, bar none, in 2023. This is a team that was once on pace to beat any other defense in NFL history for points allowed per game, which is the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, who, by the way, they won the Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer at quarterback. If they could do that with Trent Dilfer, imagine what the ceiling of this team is with soon-to-be two-time league MVP Lamar Jackson. I am all on the Ravens in this one. Patrick Mahomes will get some help from his friends, the officials, at some point in this one. I still don't think that's going to be enough to stop the Baltimore Ravens from going back to the Super Bowl, a game that, by the way, I think they will win. Brent Urban is one to watch. He had a career-high 3 sacks this season along that defensive line for the Ravens. Tavius Robinson, as a raw rookie, started a game, had a couple tackles for loss and a sack. One of them could always pop off. And I'm excited to see Kyle Hamilton at safety, a guy who I think is, regardless of position, honestly, one of the best defensive players in the NFL. I remember having a long argument at Grey Cup 2022 in Regina saying that Kyle Hamilton should have been a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. And JC talking to me about analytics and about how safety is not a valuable position and you need to draft a pass rusher. You need to draft a core. How about you draft an amazing perennial all-pro talent safety like Kyle Hamilton? He's a guy, especially with that production they get up front in Baltimore, I think could make a game-changing play. So I'm happy to roll with the Ravens here. The Chiefs have been a nice story the last few years. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, Zach Collaris. It's been great. We've all held hands around the campfire. I'm here for the Baltimore Ravens, who are the truth.
I believe that we have some of the best football minds anywhere here at 3 Down Nation. That's proved because Brent Urban from Mississauga, high school coached by Ben Grant, 3 Down Nation contributor. That's all you need to know. Back the Ravens for the Super Bowl.
For those that perhaps don't know, Lamar Jackson was once on a CFL neg list. Which team was it, fellas?
I actually have no idea.
The BC Lions. Could you imagine Lamar Jackson playing in the CFL, boys?
That wouldn't have even been fair.
That's a lot of space out there for a guy that quick. Wow.
That'd be insane, dude. But he's doing his thing in the NFL. Love watching Lamar Jackson play, changing the discussion around NFL quarterbacks being dual threat athletes and runners. But still, man, Mahomes, this guy's so good in the playoffs. I think Baltimore can win, but until Mahomes is dead, I ain't believing that his team is out of it.
Well, next week we could sit back down and preview the Ravens-Lions Super Bowl that I predicted.